speed. Touchdown.
Welcome into the latest episode of Mac and Mose. Andy McNamara along with the editor of GoDucks.com, Rob Mosley. We're a little late on this, so we apologize, but we want to certainly recap Oregon's big win over Stanford. The Cardinals were ranked number 7 going into the game. The Ducks were unranked. The Cardinals were favored in the game. This was one where the way Oregon has been playing lately, Rob, it didn't surprise me that the Ducks were able to win this game. I was a little surprised, actually, that it was a double-digit point spread in favor of the Cardinal for this one, just with the way the offense has started to perform under a healthy Vernon Adams. But this was people want to say that this is now a rivalry. I tend to kind of agree with them. I didn't maybe going into this game, but the way that these two teams battle every year, this was an exciting game and probably the marquee game in the Pac-12 for the entire season.
Yeah, and the contrast in styles makes it that much more compelling too. And I mean, both teams were who we thought they were. Stanford trying to grind it out with 10-play, 11-play drives that take 5-6 minutes. After their first drive, we look up and like half the first quarter is already gone. Whereas Oregon scoring in a minute and a half, 2 minutes, or 12 seconds when in terms of Charles Nelson's long run. So that adds to the flavor too. That it's sort of like old school, new school, finesse, power, however you want to frame it. And both teams are going to hate those generalizations because they both consider themselves more varied and nuanced than that. But I think that adds externally to kind of the narrative and how fun of a matchup it is.
We talked after the Cal game about some of the mistakes that Oregon made against Cal, and were still able to kind of roll to victory, and how they couldn't do that against Stanford. They cleaned some things up. They were much better in terms of penalties in this one. The personal foul penalty against Tyson Coleman that extended a drive that Stanford eventually scored on was a big call in the game. After seeing it, I don't think it was a penalty.
Did you see it?
Well,
what did you see?
Yeah, exactly. But overall, I mean, that was an area that was much improved. They took care of the football. There was the one fumble where Vernon Adams was hit from his blind side. Yeah. You hope that the quarterback can kind of sense that, but you really can't blame him too much because he can't see the guy coming. And a great tackle on that play by Kenai Benoit to stop a touchdown and at least sort of slow down the Stanford momentum. But there were some things that some problem areas that Oregon was able to overcome, and I think that's encouraging. They could not get off the field on third down against Stanford, yet were able to strike quickly, as you say, on offense to keep this game close and then eventually build a big enough lead that allowed them to hang on for victory.
Well, third down defense obviously been an issue for a couple of years now, and third and long situations have been most maddening. Stanford, converted some 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, where they go with their power formation. Ducks installed a new defensive set that had 5 down linemen, 4 linebackers, just 2 defensive backs for those situations, and gave up some first down conversions. What they didn't give up were big plays. Christian McCaffrey is got speed for days, tons of breakaway speed, but his longest run of the day was only 14 yards.
And it was his first carry of the game.
Very good. There you go. So the fact that the defensive line was able to tie things up, let the linebackers make plays, it was sort of a classic run defense effort. You've got Rodney Hardrick, Joe Walker, your inside linebackers leading the team in tackles. Reggie Daniels, your strong safety, leading the team in tackles. That's what a stat sheet's supposed to look like when you're going against a team like Stanford. So yeah, I mean, they were giving up a couple yards, and when Stanford puts 3,000 pounds on the field, they're probably gonna be able to push you a yard or two. But Ducks weren't giving up explosion plays, and we refer to the Charles Nelson play as well. Due to the turnover. And it was great that Kenai Benoit was able to keep that from being a touchdown, and the defense held him to a field goal as well. But that's when things could have gotten a little sideways. And Charles Nelson's touchdown in there, like his return against Arizona State, he kept an opponent from really putting a stranglehold on momentum, and that was a huge play.
Defensively for Oregon, they give up 37 points. No. I'm sorry, 36 points.
We'll get there.
The 2-point conversion, which doesn't look great on the stat sheet. Stanford, however, has been very methodical. After that opening loss at Northwestern, they put up points in games. You have a sense that if they wanted to play a little bit faster, and I'm not talking about tempo, but just maybe snapping the ball with 10 seconds on the play clock instead of 3 every single time, that this would be an offense that can score because they have weapons in McCaffrey. Receivers, tight ends, they always have tight ends that can make plays. Kevin Hogan, a senior this year, and executed outside of the 2 flubbed snaps, really played a good game in this one, and is a threat to run. So I think you can still find some positives on the defensive side. DeForest Buckner, another big game. Reggie Daniels, who you mentioned, Tyson Coleman, Joe Walker made the play of the game to essentially end it on the 2-point conversion, and Coleman with the quarterback pressure to maybe force Hogan to throw that a little bit earlier than he wanted to. So going down the stretch, going into a matchup against a very talented team in USC, the defense seems to be making the strides at the right time.
Yeah, USC is going to be, I think, more balanced than either Cal or Stanford, so that's going to be cause for concern. But yeah, I mean, they made enough plays to win, which with this defense is kind of, sometimes it's been the best we've been able to say. But I think the end of each half continues to be a concern. We saw it particularly against the Washington State game. I thought Stanford managed the clock brilliantly. I wondered what they were doing with some of their play calls at the end of the first half, and yet they saved their timeouts, get themselves into position to tack on 3 right before the half, and then at the end of the game, drive down to that touchdown. Again, I thought there was a call that went against the Ducks. I didn't see a pass interference on Ugo Amadi. Watching the replay. But you gotta play through those things. You gotta overcome those things, and yeah, I mean Stanford. Hogan was able to drive them down the field, kind of outside of their comfort zone. Then again, against Stanford, you want Hogan to try to beat you through the air rather than through the run. That I think that play call, kind of like Arizona State's play call, throwing on the final play of that game. They're probably second guessing themselves. Why didn't we try to run the ball in that situation? But the Ducks made a play when they had to.
On the offensive side of the ball for Oregon, they were able to put stats up once again. The one that really stands out to me, not in necessarily a positive light, but just a very weird statistic, is that the Ducks only converted 2 third downs in this entire game, yet scored 5 touchdowns.
And both of them were on that. Both the third down conversions were on the drive that ended in the fumble, right?
Yeah. So it's
didn't convert a third down on the way to any points.
No, and Vernon Adams didn't throw a pass in the first quarter. That's the first time that's happened in over a decade. In an Oregon game that they've gone an entire first quarter without attempting a pass. They didn't need to. They were able to run the ball successfully on their opening offensive drive. Darren Carrington didn't get his 100-yard receiving game, but continues to make an impact. Had a big touchdown. Taj Griffin, the longest reception for a touchdown this season by an Oregon player, 49 yards, where he went on a wheel route. Adams only threw the ball 12 times, incredibly efficient. Second highest efficiency in a game by a UO quarterback since 2005. So things are starting to click there. Royce Freeman didn't carry the ball a ton, but again, whether it was Benoit or Griffin or even Charles Nelson a couple times, Tony Brooks-James we didn't see in this one, but on offense, but that was really a product of the fact that Oregon only ran 48 plays in this game. So they were extremely efficient. You have to think that the offense is going to be very well rested, and hopefully maybe not rusty at all from only being on the field for about 17 minutes in this game.
No, I mean, I really think they are starting to click behind Vernon Adams. I mean, this is ending up being the offense we all thought we were going to see all year. And I think we can put to bed the questions of what if, had he been healthy all year. We know where this team would be. One loss probably. If that had he been healthy the whole year, but that's neither here nor there at this point. It's just nice to see. I think personally happy for him that he's getting to experience some of the successes in an Oregon uniform that he anticipated, and for the teammates and staff. This is when he transferred here, this is what everybody had in mind. So and I think some of the early struggles really have resonated with these guys because just the jubilation in the locker room. Against at Arizona State, and then at Stanford. I think because of the early defeats, they appreciate these wins even more than the teams over the last couple years. I mean, winning was fun, it was awesome, but it was also sort of the routine.
Yeah.
And it was always the wins, like being able to come back and beat Arizona after losing to Arizona. That was maybe the sweetest one last season. By the same token, losses make victories that much sweeter, and I think this team really appreciates the level it's playing at lately because of some of the things it went through.
4 straight wins for the Ducks. They will match up against USC this Saturday, 12:30 kickoff on ESPN. Also, winners of 4 straight are the Trojans. Oregon back in the college football playoff rankings this week at number 23. They are ranked in all 3 polls, so things going in the right direction there. There's still a North Division, Pac-12 North Division title out there. They still need some help. They obviously have to beat USC and then have Cal defeat Stanford, and then Oregon would then have to go on and beat Oregon State. So a lot of work to go there. But like you say, the team enjoying these victories, and I think they really are excited to play football right now, and they're going to go out against USC, and really I don't think they're worrying about anything else other than USC, and then the next week it'll be Oregon State. And really at the end of the year, the way things started out for this team, they put their head down, and I think they're going to just pick it up at the end of the season, see where they're at, and hopefully it's a positive they can build on going into next year. We will be here to preview that USC game. We could probably do it right now since it's so late in the week, but no, we'll hold off on that a little bit. If in the meantime, if you have any specific questions you want to ask us, please do so on Twitter. I am at McNamara UO. He is at Duck Football. Until next time, we'll see you.